Remember how Seth Rollins mentored Dominic on Raw, helping him break into the roster and become a star? Charlotte Flair could do the same for Aalyah Mysterio on WWE SmackDown. Here is a rumor that was broken by WWE inside sources recently. An idea that's been discussed however not determined at this point is an on-screen pairing of Charlotte and Andrade when they return to TV. The idea behind it is to use Charlotte's star power to elevate Andrade into the main event scene. And now, you'll say that Charlotte Flair is a Raw superstar and not a WWE SmackDown one, to which we respond by saying that she could be a trade for Jackson Ryker. We know that he was a WWE SmackDown superstar who's moving to Raw to team up with Aalyah. Charlotte and Andrade vs. Murphy and Aalyah may be the feud that the WWE Universe did not know that they needed, but they do. There has to be a reason why Natalya scored a victory over Bayley last week on WWE SmackDown, completely out of the blue. Nobody saw the win coming. And unless Bayley has backstage heat, it makes no sense at all. Natalya did not need the win, and Bayley could have done without the loss, especially if you consider her amazing WWE SmackDown run. Could we see a complete swerve where Natalya and Carmella team up to take on Sasha Banks? It would make sense for them to pair up, especially if the plan is to keep the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship on the Boss. The women's tag team division needs more teams, and they could make a formidable alliance. Carmella certainly needs backup, especially after Sasha Banks got the better of her in the backstage area of WWE SmackDown during a sit-down interview. It's never a bad idea to give heels the upper hand in terms of numbers. Plus, Carmella and Banks could have great matches too. On a recent episode of WWE's The Bump, Goldberg took a major shot at Roman Reigns and called out the reigning Universal Champion, a former Universal Champion himself. Goldberg teased a return to WWE and put Reigns on notice. Taking to Twitter, Roman Reigns has now responded to Goldberg's call-out and has further heated things up between the two powerhouses. In typical Goldberg fashion, the former WCW icon claimed that Roman Reigns is next in line. However, the tribal chief isn't one who plans to wait. In his latest tweet, the Universal Champion made it quite clear that Kevin Owens is indeed the next target in his sights. He also responded to Goldberg in the process. The tribal chief added that he's the attraction and chooses who's next. Over the course of the past few weeks, Roman Reigns has engaged himself in a fresh feud against Kevin Owens. The two men have been going back and forth, and on last week's SmackDown, Reigns even destroyed both his cousin Jey Uso and KO with a steel chair. The Universal Champ will put his title next on the line against Owens at the TLC pay-per-view, which is WWE's final PPV of the year. The former Universal Champion will hope to get his hands on the belt once again, so the WWE Universe surely should prepare for another instant classic between Reigns and Owens. Roman Reigns and Goldberg were originally set to face each other at this year's WrestleMania. However, the tribal chief eventually decided to withdraw himself from the event, and Goldberg instead went on to face Braun Strowman. Judging by the teasing between the two, WWE could indeed be headed towards a potential feud between Goldberg and Roman Reigns for the Universal title. Last week on WWE SmackDown, Daniel Bryan pinned Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn, and one assumes that this has earned him a title shot at some point down the line for the championship. But what is very peculiar indeed is that no match for the title has been announced for TLC 2020 yet. What is even more strange at this point is that on previous episodes of WWE SmackDown, a Big E vs Sami Zayn feud has been teased. Could there be a major swerve on this week's episode of WWE SmackDown, then, where Daniel Bryan vs Sami Zayn is announced, and because of the nature in which their previous encounter ended, the title is put on the line once again? To the surprise of one and all, Daniel Bryan could emerge as the champion, and a host of WWE SmackDown stars could then take him on in a ladder match for the title at WWE TLC, maybe all 6 men that competed last week. SmackDown Women's Champion Sasha Banks recently sat down with Charlotte Wilder and looked back at her run as a WWE superstar in 2020. Banks answered a bunch of interesting questions, including what she plans to do next in WWE. Her answer was something WWE CEO Vince McMahon wouldn't be thrilled with. Sasha Banks had quite a bold answer when asked what she wants to do next. The boss stated that she wants to become the CEO of WWE. "The biggest thing I want to do next is to be the CEO of the WWE, because I'm a legit boss. And how can I be more legit than by owning the whole company? I can only make it better with my energy. I can only make it brighter with my matches and my quality." It would be interesting to learn what Vince McMahon thinks of Sasha Banks's bold ambitions. Banks has consistently been one of WWE's biggest female superstars over the past 5 years or so, and she was equally impressive even before she made her way to the main roster in 2015. Banks took a months-long hiatus from WWE TV last year and returned as a heel. Ever since then, Banks has posted a long string of tweets thanking Vince McMahon for giving her the opportunity to live her dream as a WWE superstar. Even though Banks probably made the statement in jest, one can't be sure when it comes to the boss, and it would be nothing short of interesting to find out what Vince McMahon thinks of her next big goal.